Houston, we have a problem. I think we all know what those words mean. And if we watch the movie or we've seen any history, we know the chaos that came from those words being mentioned. Now, maybe you're a conspiracy theorist and you don't believe that anyway, fine. But if you saw the movie, at least from an actor standpoint, you know what happened, right? Okay, there was mass chaos going on at NASA because we have a problem and we've got to get these astronauts back to Earth safely. And so the computers went flying and people were typing and we had to find out what was going on and how to fix it. Now, in situations like that, man, we are thankful that we have computers and computer technicians and the engineers to make all of that happen. And we want people on their screens. But Houston, we have a problem. And the problem is now we don't have engineers and astronauts and astrophysicists on their screens. We've got kids who are addicted to their screens. Do you realize that today the average time a teenager spends in front of a screen is 9.5 hours? The average time a teenage boy plays video games a day is 3 hours? Man, that's a problem. Okay, and I played video games as a kid, and I know you're probably looking at this bald-headed guy thinking, what right does he have to tell me what to do with video games? Well, look, I played on Atari. I played Super Mario Brothers when it came out on the very first Nintendo Entertainment System that hit the market that Christmas. I overheated a motorcycle, an Excite Bike, before most of you were ever born. Okay, I grew up playing these video games. I played Tecmo Bowl one night until my hands were bleeding. We didn't go to bed because we were in the middle of a tournament. I've played my fair share of video games, and I've had a lot of fun doing that. So please don't feel like I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. But what I am saying is we do have a major problem when it comes to video games and when it comes to the technology of these games. But today, science is telling us that from video games themselves, the rush, okay, of endorphins, the rush that comes from that, it can be even greater than that of a cigarette, alcohol, sexual activity, or in some cases, even drugs. And so these kids are getting sucked in and they're getting pulled into these games and they're getting these rushes that come from these games. And if not tailored and not monitored, this can become a huge problem. Because just like with the alcohol that we've talked about before, man, it's great. We have that rush, but then we want more.
Engaging in a highly stimulating activity like a video game, you instantly release a lot of dopamine from your baseline, making it drop and not have enough dopamine to then later motivate you to do your work or other responsibilities.
Now, look, I know you enjoy video games and I know you enjoy playing them, many of you, and I'm cool with that. Man, you're going to come home, play video games for a half hour, play video games for an hour, fine. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about knowing we've got a problem. I'm talking about maybe our own kids who are playing way too many video games, right? And maybe we should be out in the park playing a little more basketball and less video games. I don't know. And not only from a kid standpoint, as adults, we have a problem, many, with these video games because any more guys in their early 30s, in mid 30s, and even early 40s, they've not grown up. They're still coming home and they haven't seen their wives or they haven't seen their children all day, and they've got to have their video time. I know a guy that works very long hours. He's up before dark and he's home late in the evening. And when he gets home, he's got to have his 2 hours of Call of Duty time before he can function. Right? It's almost like he's been drained at work from everything that he has, and where some guys will have to stop and have, a cold one on their way home. He's got to go and get in front of the gaming system for a couple hours before he can function. That's a problem. Anytime I'm doing something in my life to help my brain function, okay, that doesn't naturally need to be there, we've got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. And so we want to talk about how to deal with that problem today. But let's back up and let's just talk about time for a second. As we look at time and the amount of time that we spend on our devices, the amount of time we spend in front of a screen on top of the amount of time we spend on a video game, it could be outrageous. It might even be something that we don't want to know, but you can find out. And I want to encourage you to find out. Jump on your phone and look up screen time. Jump on Microsoft with the Xbox and look at screen time. Find out how much time you're spending in front of the screen and on these video games. Look, if we just take the 9 hours, okay, that the average teen spends in front of a screen, let's take that 9 hours a day now and devote it to learning another language. Could you imagine? Okay, your child, teenager, you could probably learn 2 languages in your high school career fluently. You could travel to another country your senior year or 2 other countries in your senior year and carry on conversations in 2 different languages if you spent that much time exercising your brain to learn a language. You know, I have a martial arts school, and I applaud all the parents who get their kids out of the house and into the dojo, into our exercise facility at 5 o'clock in the evening. You know, they're taking their kids out of their comfort zone. They're taking their kids out in the cold, and they're making them stretch. Who wants to stretch and run? Who wants to run? But making them exercise in just 2 hours a week, right? And it could be jujitsu. It could be archery. It could be whatever, right? But what are you doing with your time, and how much wiser could you be? I mean, there are kids right now graduating from college, 20 years old. How are they doing that? I mean, I saw where a guy was playing basketball the other day. He's a freshman status, but he's already a freshman, but he's already a junior status-wise because of all the classes he took before he arrived at college. Man, take those 9 hours a day, 4 of those hours, and do dual enrollment at another college. And you could be a college graduate by 20. You could have your master's by 22, and you could have a doctorate by the time you were 25. That's unbelievable. But wouldn't that be so much better than the time that you're wasting sitting in front of these video games? So what are some of the problems here? I think one of the major problems I see, apart from what we were talking about with the dopamine and the rush that we get from video games, is real world living. You know, when guys get into these video games, or we get into these video games, and you know, in my day, going back again, it was a show called a game called Sim City, where you would go in Sim City and set up, and you would have your lawyer, you were the mayor, and you'd have your whatever, your industries and your fire stations and all this, and you built your city. You know, now we play on our iPads, Heyday, we're building a farm, whatever. And we're getting into these games, and we're talking to people, and we're living in a make-believe world, but yet in this make-believe world, somehow it's real. And it's kind of like Clark. You know, Clark was such a loser when he was a reporter. And what a nerd. And he was so unsuccessful. But as soon as he jumped in that phone booth and popped off his shirt and came out Superman, oh, watch out. Right? Bob Parr, one of my favorites. I mean, he was incredibly horrible at his day job. What a loser. But man, when he put on his Mr. Incredible outfit, he was Mr. Incredible. And we all know what happened to Thor when he left his superhero god world in Endgame, right? He became this fat loser that just sat around watching TV. Now, yes, those are all make-believe, but so is the world many of our teenagers and even young men are living in these video games. They might walk out and jump on that bus Monday morning, a loser, come home and get on the computer or get on the gaming system that afternoon, and in this make-believe world, he's a winner and he's celebrated, and he's got adults telling him how awesome he is. But yet the adults in the other world, just outside his bedroom door, his parents, grandparents, teachers, are telling him he needs to straighten up and take school more seriously and do more work and make something of his life. Why would I want that when I can have this, right? And that's the world these kids are wanting to live in, and it's a make-believe world. They're living vicariously through these video games or these video game characters, and they're being celebrated for the number of kills they have or the skills they have. And it's going to curve the rest of your life because you're going to feel you can never be accepted. You're never going to be able to learn how to talk to or look adults in the eyes, and it's a problem. You know, Joe Rogan got into big trouble, okay, and videos went viral about him, and people were, Ninja was roasting him over this, and other video gamers were roasting him over this, but he made the statement that, you know, we need to stop wasting our life on these video games. He's like, look, hours of time are being wasted playing video games when you could be doing something of value and more important and of more importance in your life. And it's true. Okay, like I said earlier, maybe it's not martial arts or maybe it's not a language, but what about music lessons, right? What about exercise? I mean, we could get our kids to a trainer $60 a week, 1 hour a day with a trainer, and before you know it, he's learning all the skills and abilities to become a ninja warrior, or become a gymnast, or become whatever, and they can use those skills for the rest of their lives. You know, my kids take guitar lessons, and if they use this time to play guitar instead of sitting in front of a screen, who knows how they can be used in the future, right? In video games, destroying not only that in the lives of our kids, but destroying them when it comes to be able to have a conversation. You know, when's the last time, Dad, you've had a true, honest, eye-to-eye, heart-to-heart conversation with your son? Okay, maybe with your daughter, and still talking about screen time. When's the last time that you've connected with them other than by way of texting? Just by having a conversation on a phone. See, these are things that we've got to take seriously. And now let me talk to the husbands. Let me talk to the fathers out there. You know, Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13 that there comes a time when I become a man that I've got to put away childish things. Now, he's not talking about video games. I get that, but the principle is there. And when I was married and, you know, I'm 24, 25, we have no kids, I remember a birthday, that you'll love this, that Carrie got me a Nintendo 64. Man, I was so excited to get that Nintendo 64, and she got me Zelda with that. The Link of Time, I think, is what it was, if I remember. Oracles of Time, sorry. I'm going to get slammed now in the comments. Oracles of Time, and I loved playing Oracles of Time. I mean, it was awesome, and I had a lot of fun, and my brother and I would play, and my wife and sister-in-law would sit behind us and talk, and we'd play, and it was just fun. I mean, it was a good time. It wasn't hours, it was just here and there, and I tried so many times later in life to get into video games, and in Assassin's Creed, I knew that would be my game, and I loved it as I started playing it, but the problem was the time just wasn't there. And if I was going to make time for it, I'm going to have to take time away from something else, like my wife, or at this time, my children. And I just couldn't do it. You know, you said, but Treg, I'm in the house. I mean, I'm in the basement playing video games, or in the man room playing video games, man cave, and my wife's home. She's watching her show. I'm doing my thing. It's okay. I don't know. Okay. Is it really okay? Just because you're in the same room doesn't mean you're together. And your wife needs you there. She needs that together time. She needs to know that you're there. And again, if you're talking through this, it's mutual, great. But I'm telling you guys, you just need to make sure that you're having the quality time with your wife and that your kids that you need, and you're not spending way too much time, okay, away from them. Paul tells us to redeem the time because the days are evil. And am I truly redeeming the time that I'm spending staring at a screen or playing these video games? So I hope it makes sense to you guys. We have a problem, right? And we've got to deal with that problem. So I just want you to think, and if you're thinking, Trey, I don't have a problem, man, I'm good. Okay, then let me challenge you to step away. Step away from the screen time. Set a screen time limit of 10 minutes a day on social media. Let me challenge you to turn the video console off and don't start it up for 5 days. Put the VR headset away for the next 5 days and don't touch it. Did you crave it? Is it pulling you? Is it calling to you, right? If so, then maybe you have a bigger problem than you think and you need to deal with it. So I hope this video is a help to you. If you know someone that's really dealing with some issues there, feel free to reach out to me. You can message me. I'd love to help you through this. I've helped many men that their marriages really are falling apart, and a lot of it comes back to these things. And we've seen marriages restored. We've seen things happen in their lives. I'd love to help you. Subscribe, share this video with somebody else, and take some time away from the video games, from the screen time, and pour your life into something more beneficial and see how you feel after about 5 days of that.